So you can always control the color, line type, line weight using the plot styles. Okay. So the page setup manager will not only control the page setup, but also the scales and the plot styles and other thing. So now you have this particular, you can move this particular viewport, and you want to have a scale to the viewport. Now, if you look into it, again, you can display the viewport, or yeah, lock it, and then you can go for the scale that you want. So if you want a scale now in feet inches, the scale is different from the matrix. So we have 1 inch is 1 feet and so on. So you can try with the different scales if you are sure about like 3/4 inch is 1 feet, or you can go with, let's say, 1/8 inch 1 feet. So you can 1/8 feet 1 inch means this actual the custom scale is 1:96, because 1 feet is 12 inches, so it is 1:96 inches. So you can go to the lower scale. 3/32 inches is 1 feet, so you can do change in the custom. You can do 1 feet is 12 inches, 12 into 32 divided by 3, so that would be the 1:2 scale. So here I can see that 332 inch 1 feet is the scale that has been set for this particular elevation further, and you can see that here the scale is also set, the annotation scale is also set over here. So primarily if you want to again hide the viewport, so here mainly what we were discussing about, we want to create a layer, viewports layer. So I have this viewports layer, and specifically I want to put it off so that the viewports should not be displayed while I am printing it. So this is off. So this is how we do start working on a sheet. So you have an elevation 1, and then what you can do, you can have the elevation 2, and now you can take a template. For example, you want to take a template that is already created by your company or you created, and it having an ISO A1 size. So here I have taken the template of the matrix. So I want to delete this. I want to take an imperial template, because the page sizes should be in feet inches, in imperial. So because I am working on a feet inches, so I take an I arc, means imperial arc. So here you can see the D size layout. So the smallest size. So here you can see that viewport is already there. So you go to the MS set. Now the viewport is locked. So in order to unlock the viewport, select the viewport already that is there, and see there is already a layer that has been made in the template as viewports. And what you can do is once you select this, you can say no, and go to the MS, and just see the scale that you want to allow this particular viewport to have for the drawing. So once you set the scale, the drawing is set, and again you can go to the page setup manager and set the, it is name of the page setup is D size, so you can go and modify it, and the plot style you can keep it as monochrome or any other plot style that you want to have. And then the moment you plot it, you can see the preview of it. So what to plot, I would say the layout, in fact, and different options. The monochrome CTB is there, and the page printer should be pdf.pc3, and it is a landscape option. Now you can see that the drawing is printed in black and white. Now apart from that, you can see that there is a part in the template where we talk about the other things like the notes and other things. So before printing it, you can fill the sheet. So now this is a block in the template. This is already created by somebody as a block. So, and the text inside the block, you can see if you do a bEdit command, block edit. So if you select it, so if you want to edit it, double click it, double click on the block, so the block will be edited. So here we have the attributes also. Now you can see that there is an attribute here. So if I do a B edit option, so here you having the title block, so block editor will open over here. Now you can see that in the block editor the template is drawn as a block, and there are certain things like, for example, certain objects are created in text. So if you do an edit text, you will find that some are attributes. So if you see the properties of it, some are attributes and some are texts. So in the attribute, if you, there are certain text which are attributes that can be edited. So there you can see there is a file name and rev det. So how do we do? So just wanted to make sure about that you understand the template, what is the composition of the template. So if you want to change something, you can go to the block editor and you can add more text over here. So to edit the attribute, you go for at edit. If you select it, you can see that the file name is, let's say, 012020, and the author, I can have Skill-Lync over here, and revision date 101. Now once you do this, you see that there's a change over here because these are attribute, but these texts are basically normal text. So here you have to go with the normal text command, and let's say if you want to have the firm name, give a size, let's say 1 feet 6 inches is the biggest size was, but we have to see that what size I want to give to the text in the paper space. So let's say create a rectangle for the text to see what is the height that you want to give it to it. So let's say if I measure the distance over here, I can see that it is around ½ inches. So I go with the text option. I start it from here and I give the size as ½ inches, and write the text as Skill-Lync. So ½ inches is also a bigger one. So here I would suggest that, you know, what we need to do is, there is in the properties of the text, you can always go for a fit option. So in the justification option, I would always go for a fit option. So in the fit options, I can basically narrow it, or if I go with the align option, what will happen is the size of the text will change. So if I take the justification as align, so what will happen is once I reduce the length of the text, so the height will also decrease. So I have this firm name and address. So here similarly I will fill up all the text over here. Let's say I have general notes. The notes that I had written previously can be come over here in the text format. So you will be writing all these notes like with the mtext command or the text command, whatever the general notes that comes with the drawing, 1 2 3, and make sure the font and the text that you're using are standard forms and texts, and the sizes are also very important, that is visible in the sheet. So this is how you basically create a sheet out of the drawing. So you can do different kind of, let's say if this is, now you want to have the elevation, so elevation, you want to put this elevation in the sheet, let's say this one. So you can always have this different types of elevation. Now so you have elevation 1 and then you have elevation 2. But once you are done with the scale and once you are done with the view, so it's very important that you go to the paper space, select the viewport that you want to and lock it. Don't put it unlock, so that the scale should not be altered. So this is all about the layout, and a small part of it I would connect at the end of this session, like the table, getting the table inside the layout. Let's move to the next part. Now another very important part, switching from this exterior elevation, I want to take it down to this floor plan to have a very important part. Let's say if in the model space, if we go into this specifically in this staircase detail, so if I know this height of a text, for example, in the particular text height is there, so you can go to the model space and you can check what is the text height. So probably you will find that the text height would be somewhat, so I just put the snap off. So if the text height is somewhat around 374, So if I want to have the similar size of text in the paper space, but 374, because the size of the paper is lesser, so it is 400. So I want to have the same size of the text written in the paper and convert it to the scale that is there in the viewport. For example, this viewport is having a scale of 1:50. So if there is a text which is of a size of 400, so obviously it will be scaled down and it will be visible as 400 divided by 50, that is 8. So let's say if I write a text and I want the size equivalent to paper space, the size of the text in model space equivalent to that of the paper space in that particular viewport. Now if I want to see the size, same size that is written over here as 1000, so I start. So here there is a command, transparent command called SpaceTrans. So what it is doing is, so it is asking for the viewport. So this is the viewport. The moment I click into it, it basically takes the scale factor that is assigned to the viewport. So now if I have the model space distance, now the model space equivalent is 400, let's say, equivalent to this size of the text. Now if I write something over here in the paper space, not in the model space, so I would see that this size is now converted into the paper space equivalent. If you can see the height, it is 8. So 8 means that the CAD has basically multiplied the text height that we had given into the scale factor. Now let's take another example over here. So let's say if I want to have a text over here equivalent to the size of the text in the model space. For example, let's say if I want to have the size of the text equivalent to this staircase, this is around. So if I want to go to the model space, just check what is the size of this particular line. So it is 138. Now here let us take an example. Now if I go with the dtext command, and let's say if I give start point over here, and then the height, I don't know what height I want to take, but I want to have the height equivalent to this particular riser. So I say here I want to translate the space. So that means in this particular viewport, let's say the model space distance is, the height means is, let's say 200. Now what it will do is, once I write it, it will basically convert, multiplying with the scale factor, let's say 1:100. So whatever size I give, so it will convert into it. So now let's say rotation angle of the text is 0. So now if we write something over here, let's say, so now if you check the size over here, it has now converted. It is now, the height has become 2. So this is what I wanted to tell you about when you are writing something in the paper space, the space transparent command, because it will not work in model space, it will work in the paper space. So before coming to the next topic for the multi-line that I want to discuss with you, there are certain times that we don't create layouts, but we want to take a plot. For that, you can directly go to the application menu. Then you have this option called print, and then you can have the page setup first, and then you can go for the plot preview, and then you can plot it. So setting the page setup in the model page. Now here you can create a new page setup or go with the modify. So select the print. Let's say we want a JPG at this moment, and select the paper size in which you want to print. So if it is a metric, then you can take an ISO size. So I take an ISO A4, and here there are 3 options. In fact, the display option means if you see the preview, the object that is displayed on the screen will be printed. If you go with the extent, means all the objects, whether it is in the screen or outside the screen, will be displayed. Limits means all objects which are in the upper and the lower limits, that is being set by the limits command, will be displayed. Have particular view. Let's, for example, you have done with the view. So if I want to print the plan view, you can see the preview. And then there are options. There is an option called window. So generally we use, let's say I want to only print this particular area. I can see that there is a scale that the AutoCAD has set after I select the window. I can do the center of plot so that the print comes in the center of the plot. Then I can set the custom scale from here. So I can have the nearest scale is 1:100. So I can see the preview over here. And then I can go with the pen assignment. So if I want a monochrome, I can go with the monochrome. So if I want to go with the any other, let's say screening 75, what will happen? It will light the pen. It will light shaded print will be taken out. And then if you want to plot the line weight, if you want to take in portrait, plot with line style and plot transparency. If the transparency is there, it will be plotted. So this is how you take a print from the model space. So there are situations when you take a print from the model space, but it is always recommended that you should use a layout for it. So you can now go and plot it. So you right after continue to plot on a single, so you can see the preview that has been created, and then there are certain warning message that you can, and then you can save this PDF file and then view it. So this is how you can take a print of from the model space. So now coming back to the topic of the multi-line, the next topic is the multi-line. So I'll be quickly taking multi-lines and the other topics one by one, so that I finish up the session 10, that is the 2D session, and then we'll be going with the 3D sessions. So multi-line is basically style by which we create lines more than one line. Like for example, with the line command, we only go with the single line, but multi-line is like pipelines or the walls. If you want to do with some kind of utilities, so multi-lines are preferred. So let's see what multi-lines are. Then we will be going with grouping and polyline. So we'll finish it off doing all these topics. So now let's say over here I want to create a multi-line. So if I go with the multi-line, so it's just like a line. Now you start like a line. Now this, you can see the distance is very less over here, because so you can create more than one line by a click. It works like a line command. Like for example, if you go with ML, so start point, and you can go with different commands, and then you have this but you need to set the style for it. So for before you start with multi-line, you go with the multi-line style. So ML style is the command, and you want to have a 9-inch wall as the multi-line. Say wall 9-inch. Give you an example. So so continue. So here you have the description. You can say wall 9 inches. Now this is the you can have the capping at the start, and you can see how it works. And this is the distance. So you have two lines, and in the 0 there is no line. So above the 0 this is 0.5, below the 0 is minus 0.5. So the width of the multi-line is 1 unit. So let's say if you want to have this as 4.5, it's a 9 inches wall, and this as minus 4.5. So overall you have a 9-inch wall. So if you select this, you can have a fill color. Let's say you want to give a yellow color, and the color of the line you want to put it red. Similarly, you want to give the color of the line as red, and you want to add a 0 element over here. So put it over here, give the color as magenta, and the line type as hidden. So now you have 3 lines. The center line is moving in the magenta color, the upper line red, and different line types are there. Continuous line types are there. So you can put a cap at the start and the end. So now you have this wall 9. You can see the preview over here and say okay. So now if you do a multi-line, so you have the current setting, style is standard. So if you want to change the style to what you have created, so go to the ML style and select it and make it current. So the moment you make it current, and if you go for a multi-line, you can see the style is 9 inches. Now if you click, now you find that the multi-lines are created and all the 3 lines with the fill is displayed over here. So let's say if you want to create more multi-lines, so there is option called scale. So here what you can do is you can increase the scale. So top scale is 200. So the scale is basically, so if you look into the distance, it is not 9, it is 9 into 20, that is approximately 180. So because the 9 inches wall, we are working in millimeters, so the wall thickness should be around 230, 115 up, 115 down, but I have taken 9 to show you the scale factor. Now let's say if I use the multi-line scale as, if you go for the multi-line and if you give the scale as, let's say 25.4, so here exactly what will happen, the 9-inch wall will be now converted into a 230 wall, because I have done the conversion factor and I have scaled it. So now this is a typical example. If you see that the 9-inch wall style that was created as a 9-inch is now converted into a 230 wall. Now if I want to have wall which is 115 so I can basically scale it 12.75, that is half of 25.4. So let's say if I do a multi-line and if I do a scale and if I say 12.75, that is half of 12.70. So press enter and now you can see that if you create a line, this is a thinner line, that is 115 wall that you have created. So this is the way that you can do multi-lines. And apart from that, now if you want to see if there are more multi-lines, let's say multi-lines are crossing each other, there is basically you cannot trim this line, so you have this multi-line edit over here which gives you the join details that you can have. ML edit is the command. So let's say if you want to have a T section, so select this multi-line. First multi-line is this, second multi-line is this, so a T section can be created. Similarly, there are other multi-line edit tools you can try, like corner joint. So if you want to have a corner joint, so select the corner joint close and so select this one and select this line. Now you can see there's a gap over here because of the joinery detail. This is what the multi-line is all about. So you can use this multi-line for example pipes or firefighting, or for any kind of utilities or flow networks that you want to develop, you can use the multi-line. The next option that is to be discussed is, after the multi-line, is the revision cloud. So the revision cloud that you can create, we have already discussed it, is for the markup. So you can get it in the annotate tab, markup panel, revision cloud, or you can basically let's say if I want to create a revision cloud for the revision, so I can give a command called rev cloud. So in this rev cloud I have got different options, like for example if I want to have a rectangular revision cloud, so I can always go for a rectangular revision cloud, or if I want to go for so now I had given a rectangular cloud, but there is the arc over here, so I have to increase the arc length. Let's say a minimum arc length that I want to give it as 100. Now if I now maximum length of the arc, let's say 200, so I keep a minimum maximum. Now I create a rectangular arc, so I can see a bigger ref cloud is created. So if I want to have the ref cloud as a circle, let's say, so I create a circle. So if I have an object like a circle over here, I want to show it in the ref cloud, I can convert this circular object into a ref cloud by selecting this circle. So say no. So this is how you do the revision cloud. Okay. The next option that is to be discussed is about the spline object, and then we'll be doing the object grouping and editing polylines. So just I want to talk about splines are smooth polylines that so you can have command spline is a smooth polyline. So this is you can try with this. So if you want to have some polynomial curves and which are not arc, you can always have a spline. If you select them, they come up with grips. You can always change the grips that you can do. So this is how the splines can be controlled. And spline edit you can try with the You can go with the spline edit, where you can select a spline, smooth polyline, and you can convert them into a polyline. You can fit the data, for example, or you can always you can do a close option, you can do an open option, you can change the tangency of any curve. So there are a lot of options that you can do with the spline edit command. Okay, then another thing that I wanted to discuss about the command called purge. So the purge command is used where basically to lighten the file. So let's say if there are certain layers that we are not using, you can purge them. So purge, do you okay, so it says that there's a layer which is not used. So not only layers, so you can select, let's say, what are the things that you can purge. View items you can purge. So the items that you would be purging is, let's say, the blocks can be purged. So there are certain blocks which are not used, dimension styles which are not used. So purging is basically, if you say purge, so you can purge means remove the unwanted element. So the moment, every time if you do purging, purge all items means, which if there is a dimension style which is not used or a layer which is not used, will be purged and removed, and your drawing will be lightened. For example, I'm giving you an example. Let's say if I use a text style, so I use a text style, and I create a text style and name it as, let's say, uh, custom one. So but I did not use it in my drawing. So the moment I do purge and I go with this, let's say, the text styles over here, so I can always have a purge all option. And now if you look into the style option, you would find, because it is current, so I have to make this as current, so I have to make it purge. So you can see that the moment I do the purge, there is this text style will be displayed, and then you select this text style and you purge it. Now the moment you purge it, the text style is removed from the style manager. Similarly, if you create a layer and if you don't use that layer, let's say there are certain layers that you have created but you haven't used it. So if you go for the purge option, and then if you look into it, you have the layers option also. So select the layers which are not used. AutoCAD will show you that these are the layers that can be purged, and now if you look into it, the layers are lightened. So this is very important option. Then there is an if you have a polyline, so this polyline can be edited. So if you have a p-edit command, you select a polyline. Now there are a lot of options, and one of the options that I want to discuss is the width option. So if I want to change the width of a polyline, let's say I want to change the width to 0.5, or let's say I want to make it 10 mm. So now you can see that changing the size will change the width. So if I want to make it a significant width, let's say I want to make it 100. So this is how you can do. And then if you want to change it to spline, it can be changed to spline. And then if you want to edit the vertex, now let's say if you want to exit it and then you want to decurve it. So if you want to change the direction of it, let's say you can go with the edit vertex, and now in the edit vertex a lot of other options will be there. Suppose if you want to add a vertex, you can always add a vertex to this, and if you want to break them, you can break it from a point. So you can go next and see which vertex you want to edit. Let's say if you want to change the tangency, you want to have the tangency, let's say a bit steeper over here, so this is the tangent. So this will be affected. Now if you exit it, and if you, let's say if you do a fit option, you can see how the curve is changed with the tangency. So the edit polyline basically is used when you want to have curves and splines, and vertexes can be edited. Like for example, if you select this particular object, there are vertexes which are very important, which changes the tangency of the curve. So you can add n number of vertex. For example, if you do a p-edit option and select this, and you want to decurve it, so it is decurved. So if you want to edit the vertex, and if you want to insert more vertex to it, so you can click insert option and then insert a vertex over here. You want to insert a vertex over here at this point, and if you want to insert a vertex between these two vertex, you can move next, and you can select that I want to insert it over here. So go for the insert option and say that I want to insert it over here. So this is way you change the geometry of the polyline. So this is how these are some of the important options in the polyline that you should know. Now there are certain extra tools that can be used in AutoCAD, that is a group. So there's a difference between a block and a group. For example, if I want to group this particular, let's say I create a circle, and if I want to group this and call them in the drawing for selection or any other purpose. So this object is I want to I don't want to create a block, but I want to group them, and for selection purpose I want to select them. So for example, so to create a group, let's say you have G. So here first thing is that you have to name the group. Let's say if I name the group as circles, give you an example of it. So circles is the name of the group, and then so G, name of the group N, and the name of the group is circle. So now and I give a description over here of this particular group, let's say group of circles. So then we will be seeing what is the difference between a block and a group later on. So here you have this select object option. So you select all this object and it becomes a group. Now this object is basically a single group, and the name of the object is circles. So if you want to erase this object, so if you write group over here and if you say circle, so this object will be selected and erased. So one of the most important part of the group is that groups are created to make the selection easier. Now if you select the group, if you right click, you will find that there are certain options. If you want to ungroup them, so you can ungroup it and the object is ungrouped. So press undo. So now if there is certain another object that the circle that you want to add it to the group, so you can go select the group, right click and go to add to group. So you can add these two circles and these two circles will now be a part of this group. Now if you want to erase them, they can be selected at once, or you can call them by name. Second is another thing, that if you want to remove certain objects from the group, you can always go to the right click option, selecting the group, remove from the group. I want to select all the three circles from the group, so this object is removed from the group. Now I'll give you a typical example from the drawing where I can use the group and where it is useful. But before that, I want to tell you about, so if you write group over here, there is an option called group edit. So in the group edit, if you select a group, you can do the same things that you did with the right click. You can remove an object, rename a group and add object. For example, if you want to rename the group and enter a new name for the group, suppose if I want to name it as circles, so the group is renamed as circles. So if you go to the property of it, so you find that this is a group and these are the properties of the group. So there is another option in the group is if you, there's a classic mode over here which is called classic group, and here you can see the list of groups are displayed. So now you can see the description and other things, remove, add, rename. If you want to explode a group, the group is gone. So this is how the groups are created and they can be used. Now let's take an example from the drawing that I have. So let's say I want to group this particular set of objects into a window. So in the elevation, so I go for a group and I say I want to select the object and I want to, now it is group, but there is no name to it. So if you want to rename the group, so if you want to see what name it has been given, so you have to go to the classic mode. So if you say group, classic mode, classic group, in fact, you will see that no name is there. But if you see this option over here, if you see include unnamed, the group has been named as A2. So you can change the name of the group from A2 to it's a window. So over here, if you want to rename this, So change the name over here and say you want to name it as Windows, and so it is renamed, and it is done. So now if you select it, you find that you can easily. Now other thing is that if you are copying a group, so every group is a unique entity. So copying a group basically will create more groups. For example, if I copy this group over here, this here and this here, so now if you look into it, this will be having a different name. System gives it a different name, it will not remain the same name that it was. So unlike block, if you would have created a block, it would have a single name and you can do other functions to it, but group is basically very unique to the object that you select. Now if you want to see what name has been given, again go to the classic mode of the group, that is the classic group option. So you see include unnamed, so bunch of names are there, A3, A4, A5, so you can rename that window 2, and let's say you write it as window 2, rename it, and it will be renamed. So this is how you basically create the groups and use it in a drawing. So at last there is one very important option that I wanted to talk about, is the divide and measure command that we did. So let's say if I have a circle, I created a circle, let's say of dia 20 mm. Now this is a block that I am creating. Now I'll be precisely telling you what is the use of the divide and measure with the block. So let's say if I have a block, if I created a 20 mm block, that is 20 mm is for the, and I put this quadrant as the base point, and here I go with the select object. Now you look into it why I am doing this and how it will help. Now let's say there's a block over here, there's a rebar that I am drawing. Let's say the rebar is let's say around 1200 millimeter. So this is the length of the bar over here, and I want to put my, this is a main reinforcement bar, or and this is for the slab I am doing it. So in this main reinforcement bar I want to have more reinforcement over here, like the secondary reinforcement placed over here. So here what I can do is I can divide, or let's say for example if I am doing divide, but I will be doing a measure because I know the center to center spacing. So I select this object, if I want to divide it now, and select this object, and it will ask you for the number of segments. But before that there is an option called block, and give the name of the block that you want to insert. For here I want to insert a 20 mm block, align the block, yes, and then number of segment, let's say 30. So now you can see that 30 in every segment the block is inserted. Now this is very useful when you have a staircase kind of situation where there is a inclined line that is going over here, and inclined bar, and you want to have the distribution bars over here. So let's say this is a polyline, join it as a polyline, and here let's say I want to insert some 20 mm bar in this particular inclined bar. So I would go with the measure option because the spacing that I want to keep is 150 mm center to center. Select this, go for the block, and then let's say 20 mm I say, and I will say align, yes, and the length of the segment is, let's say, 200 mm spacing. So now you can see that this, the bars are placed at 200 mm spacing over here. Now let me have the rebar more specific. So let's say I'll go with the polyline, and let's say I have a long bar so that you can see this. So this is, let's say, this is the rebar that I want to put it over here, and here I want to go with the measure, because the measure you can give the distance. When the divide you give the number of segments. So here I'm using a rebar and I use a block, 20 mm block, and let's say I want to align it, yes, and the length of the segment is 200 mm. Now you can see the distribution 200, not mm. So the rebars are distributed in this particular bar. So this is how basically there are a lot of things that you can do with the blocks while using in the measure and the divide command. So this ends the session, but before that I want to tell you about something about tables. So tables are very important. Here I will go with the table command, and tables are just like, you can put your Excel sheet type of thing into CAD. Let's say there is option like insertion behavior, specify window. So number of columns you want to have 5, and the number of rows, let's say you want to have 4, and there is a table style that I can do. So if you modify the table style, so the table direction, the first is the title, header, and the data. So every cell style you can provide a cell style. For example, what would be the text style for the data, what would be the fill color, and everything you can go over here in the margins. Similarly for the header, this one you can go with the what is the alignment, what is the fill color, and what is the label that you want to give. So here the label is label, so header, and so you want to go with the label. And similarly for the title you can have the same kind of arrangement, and then you can select table to start from. So if you click into it, if you have a particular table you can select the property, but here we are creating a table of our own. So this is the style that we have done, and close it. And let's say here we want to go start from empty table, and I say specify window. So here I want to specify it, and here I have this table formed. So the moment I put this table over here, so you can see that there are certain grips that are visible over here, and you can basically change the grip sizes, and each cell can be edited in the table. Like for example, if you want to write something, double click into it, and you can write a text over here. Let's say I want to write a text schedule of drawing. So here in the M text, so you can change the style of it. Let's say if you want to change the style to Verdana, or you want to give the size, let's say 2.5, no, I want to give it as 18. So this is how you can have the table done. So you can table edit command, pick a cell. So you can always edit the cell. For example, if you want to have revision, and so again if you want to change the sizes of the text over here in the revision, you can always go with a value and change it, and then you can give the style that you want to go with it. And if you want to merge the cells, for example, if you want to merge these two cells, select it, and then you have different options, like you can merge the cell all, so the cell will be merged. So you can try with this, and then you can basically put this table into your sheets that you have created. You can increase the size of this table by doing a scale option, and let's say if I increase the scale to 3, so this is how a lot of schedules can be done. A lot of text can be put over here, like schedule of drawings, door window schedules, bar bending schedules, everything can be done, and it is a very useful option in AutoCAD. But again, so if you want to copy this table into the layout that you have created, so you can copy this, and directly you can paste it somewhere here. But then you know the table sizes are very big, so you can scale the table size, or directly do a table here in the paper space. So you can directly go with the table command, and specify the window. So you can specify a window of the table, and you can start directly writing in the sheet also. So this will not affect the, will basically scale down to what the paper is intended to do. So I think now we have basically done the layouts and other tools in 2D. Hope you can draw better using all the tools that you have learned. Thank you.